You are listening to The Underground Subway with host David Alston, a podcast dedicated to giving you the strategies to live a free and better life. Here is David Alston.
Hi, I'm David Alston, host of The Underground Subway, and I want to thank you for joining us for this podcast, The Underground Subway, a weekly podcast that comes on and shares with you the secrets and strategies and methods used by so many great individuals who have experienced pain, trauma, hard times, and hardships and still survived. And we live to tell the story of how we survived. I want to thank you for joining us. The Underground Subway, which gets its name from the Underground Railroad. My grandmother, who was first cousin with Harriet Tubman, always talked about the struggles that cousin Harriet went through, but yet she persevered and survived so that others could be free. This podcast in the 21st century, we don't deal with the Underground Railroad any longer. We deal with the Underground Subway, a modern method of getting everyone to freedom. What is freedom? It is liberty. It is the ability to think, to act, to function, to do what we need to do without restraints. Many of us have a lot of restraints, and those restraints are troubles or issues from the past. But this podcast is dedicated to giving you every tool that you need to be free. My friends, my guest for this podcast, I'm just blown away with the fact that my guest has consented to join this podcast. And I believe this is going to be one of the better ones, the best ones that we have. Let me tell you a little something about my guest, who is just an awesome individual. When reading about him and speaking to him, I believe that this podcast is really going to help shape your pathway going forward. His name is D. Neil Elliott. Let me tell you something about Mr. Elliott. To an outsider, D. Neil Elliott was highly educated, owned a profitable consulting firm, and had a successful career and an amazing wife and family. But things were not all they seemed to be. Neil was facing a lot of challenges. In a phrase, he was in a dark place. Quite by accident, he discovered a higher road. As he traveled that road, he found the key to transforming his life. Over the course of the following year, Neil lifted himself to an inner state of love, peace, joy, and abundance. His perspectives on life changed entirely. His troubles and tribulations were the impetus to find the key that enabled him to revolutionize his life. He learned that the search for a better life, and this is critical, my friends, the search for a better life does not entail positive thinking, saying affirmations, chanting mantras, or traveling to India to sit at the feet of a guru, or other popularized methods of quote unquote finding yourself. The key to ascend in both spiritual perception and truth, you need to use the right process to break through your entrenched human ego barriers. For nearly 3 decades, Neil read hundreds of self-help and spiritual books and took self-development courses. All of them offered hope for change and improvement, but nothing fulfilled his needs or genuinely delivered on his promises. Neil's desire, and as his new mission in life, is to share the knowledge he gained and the processes he used on his journey to self-awareness. Together with the blueprint document he discovered that was instrumental in transforming his life. Now, Neil wants to give you, regardless of your station in life, the tools and opportunity to empower yourself, transform your life, and draw peace, joy, love, and prosperity into your personal situation and environment. Neil believes that as more and more people follow this higher road to true spiritual perfection, a new era of love and peace will dawn for everyone throughout the world. And that, my friends, excites me because that is our goal. Welcome to the Underground Subway, D. Neil Elliott. Thank you, sir, for joining us on the Underground Podcast.
Well, thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to our conversation today.
Yes, sir. Well, let's jump right in it. I'm just jump right in to give you all the time that we can just peel back this emotional onion and get all the flavor out of life that we're supposed to have. A lot of people, a lot of our audience, a lot of individuals, we come across people that are really struggling in life. They struggle, whether it's financially, with our economy. Um, I'm in North Carolina, and you're in Vancouver, British Columbia, up there, the great North, as it's called. But no matter where we are, whether it's Canada, America, South America, Europe, people are hurting. People are facing some challenging situations. Neil, in your opinion, in your view, with your experience, how can someone who's facing a challenging or difficult moment in their life open their mind and consider new perspectives about life?
Okay. So the first thing you need to do is you need to, kind of be looking for something that is going to help you.
Mhm.
And for me, that culminated when I sat down at a kitchen table and planned out my suicide and crafted my suicide note. Now, there had been some scientific books and some spiritual books I had been reading, and I share all of this in A Higher Road, by the way. Uh, and those kind of set the stage for me to open my consciousness up to kind of become like a little child, full of wonder and joy and curiosity, and not doubt. And that enabled me to be receptive of this blueprint document that I fortuitously received. And then that the combination of the science books that I read beforehand and this blueprint document, gave me the process and the new knowledge that I needed to take me from this place of suicidal depression to this inner state of love, peace, joy, abundance, and prosperity within a year.
Wow. Well, Neil, someone may be listening and saying, well, okay, I want to do better. I want to find that. How long do you think? Because I often talk about life in a GPS system. You need to know where you are, where you want to go. And once you plug that into the GPS, it will tell you the steps, and we'll go over that a little later, the steps, but it'll also tell you how long it's going to take you to get there. What would you say is the length of time that a person needs to dedicate their life to follow the steps that you're going to give us in order to live a better, more profitable life?
So that is something that I can speak to myself. So it's going to depend on the individual, and it's going to depend on the dedication and persistence that they put into the 7-step process that I'm going to share with you. And for me, I can tell you that it took me a year.
Okay.
And then at the end of that year, it's been this ever evolving spiritual awakening for me. And I can tell you, it just keeps getting better and better. And for lack of any other term, it is incredibly magical.
Wow. Well, let's cut to the chase and get all the anticipation out of the way. Walk us through those 7 steps of a higher road.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me give you some context first.
Sure.
I look back now and I say, this was all divinely ordained. I didn't recognize it at the time, but I can look back now and go, I needed to understand some things based in science that is believable and understandable for me. And the context about that is that I grew up agnostic in a non-religious family, but I believed that the universe in this world is so magical. There's got to be some kind of directing, intelligent force behind all of this beauty that we see in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't understand it. And, as a child, that's what I believed. But, I kind of lost touch with that as I grew older. And so the science books I read opened me up to get a new understanding of consciousness. And then I read a story about a woman that had a near-death experience. And that near-death experience is all documented in medical records. In short, she was in her 40s. She had been suffering from this 4 years of an aggressive cancer, and she fell into a coma. They rushed her to the hospital. The admitting physicians told her husband and family she wouldn't make it through the night. She woke up 24 hours later and said she declared she'd be totally okay. And within 2 weeks, they couldn't find a trace of cancer in her body.
Wow.
And so her book is about her experience while she was in this 24-hour period. And she brought back certain messages. We come from unconditional love. We return to unconditional love. She felt like she was becoming part of everything in the universe. And we're not judged after death, no matter what we do here. Mm-hmm. And so that, kind of expanded my concept of consciousness. I walk everybody through in A Higher Road, the exact process I went through. And my recommended way to read A Higher Road is read it cover to cover, understand the process in its entirety, and then make a decision for yourself, whether it's something that resonates with you or not. If it does, go back and start with either some of the science material or start directly with step one. And there's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. It's just your choice on whether you want to do this or not. Okay. And so, this blueprint document, what it does, and I don't tell anybody the name of it because I want you to come to this document with a fully open mind, ready to receive this new knowledge and this new information that you're going to gain that enables you to go through this process and totally transform your consciousness and come into alignment with where we come from, whatever you want to call it, God, Yahweh, the Tao, source of our being. And when you come into full alignment and congruency with where we come from, you will want to express unconditional love to everyone and everything in the world. And so that's what this process does is, you're going to go through a process where first step is to expand your consciousness. The second step is I unveil these truths, this new knowledge I gained. And you're going to go through this learning process of understanding these truths. And it's so logical and it's so rational and it's based in things we know in science today that bridges this gap between spirituality and science. And if you can come to this material like a little child full of curiosity, joy, and wonder, and do not doubt, because doubt will create its own consciousness form, which creates a barrier for you to learning and understanding. And so you keep those in abeyance through some positive affirmations or other ways. But you go through this process, you follow the 7 steps. So the second step is I unveil these truths. The third step is you're going to, it's a reflection step, and it's a step where you write yourself a letter. And you're going to do that because it provides a marker in terms of where you're currently at. And you're going to end up putting that letter away and open it a year later if you follow this process. And you'll be able to mark the stark transition in consciousness for you over this year-long period. So let's call it a year, because for me, it was a year. It's going to depend on the individual coming to it, maybe less, maybe more. And so you write down exactly how you feel about life, whether you're happy with it or rather be done with it. And this is a letter that you're going to write, which is only for you.
Okay. I was going to ask
for anybody.
I was going to ask you, what do I write in this letter? And you answered that. Yes. How do I feel about where I am now?
Exactly. It's exactly how you feel. And this is something that you got to be totally honest with yourself. It's not for anybody. It's not to please a God. It's not to show to your wife, your family, or your spouse, your family, or your friends. It's only for you. Okay. And you write this letter, and you document, and this is where you're going to be really truthful with yourself and write it down. And you do that, you lock it away. And that's kind of the third step. Or well, that is the third step. The fourth step is you're going to go through a process where you're going to, learning this new knowledge, you're going to cleanse your consciousness of all things that are incongruent, not in alignment with the source of our being. You're additionally going to, the fourth step is to rebuild your consciousness to be in alignment with the source of our being, which is unconditional love. And the sixth step is you're going to learn a meditation. And in that meditation, you are going to learn how to go into the silence and the stillness of your mind. And what that does is it takes you through a process where these truths will reveal themselves to you as you learn this information in this process. And it enables you to connect back with the source of your being. And then the seventh step is kind of a rinse and repeat. You're going to do some of these steps. You're going to continue your learning. You're going to continue your meditation. And you're going to continue to do this cleansing and rebuilding. So that's kind of, so how long does that take? It really depends on the individual. For me, it took a year.
Question. In all listening to all the steps, there was one that really jumped out that I said, okay, I need to ask about this one. And that was step number 4, which said, cleanse yourself, your conscience. How do we go about, well, let me ask it like this. And I know all of my guests, they, my repeat guests laugh because every guest I ask a question in this same manner. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and one of my favorite movies outside of Jaws and John Wick and all of those is the movie Philadelphia with Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington. And in the movie, Denzel Washington is an attorney, and he asks a witness a question, and he says to the guy, explain this to me like I'm a 6-year-old. So I want to ask you if you can explain this to me like I'm a 6-year-old. How do you cleanse yourself?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So let's first talk about how we have created our current consciousness. And I'll do this in a really high level way, like a stone skipping across the water. So there's a lot of depth in between and under each stone, but I'll hit a few high points here. So as we grow up from babyhood to adulthood, what we're really doing is we are adopting certain patterns and behaviors and modes of thinking consistent with the circumstances that we grew up in, our families, our religions, our cultures, all of those kinds of things. And then at age 5, you start making decisions for yourself, and you start reinforcing these patterns as you go out and learn more things and you're exposed to more experiences. As we grow from babyhood to adulthood, we think we're becoming versed in the ways of the world, but really what we're doing is we're shutting off our soul from its connection back to source. And we do this through these egoic patterns of thinking and behaving. And you'll know this. So you will have, something happens in your environment, be it an experience or something that comes into you, and somebody says something, you'll have an immediate response to that. It might be a kind, loving thought and response, or it could be, you feel all of a sudden you have some anger or rage or disbelief, and, you're going to get into an argument with a person. Well, this is, kind of how we've programmed our subconscious mind. And so in order to cleanse that, you're going to go through a very specific list of things which everybody needs to cleanse from their consciousness. And you're going to keep doing this, and you're going to be reaching out to the divine through this process to get help with that cleansing. And it happens slowly and it happens imperceptibly. But what happens is that over time, so for me, I went from, this really dark, suicidal, depressed state with these patterns of behavior that are programmed in my subconscious. And those patterns of behavior and thinking that's in our subconscious and unconscious mind are like concrete. They are hard to break up and they're hard to dissolve. But in order to fulfill our evolutionary destiny for our soul, we need to get in there, and we need this process where you break up these patterns of thinking and behaving, and then get it back into alignment with our source. And so the divine helps you do this as you go through and you start to cleansing this list. But I'll tell you, let me back up a little bit. The first thing I had to learn in this whole process was from a book based in science. And it was a book that clearly explained and outlined in a way which I understood and was believable. Being the professional engineer I am, I like things I can measure, calculate, observe, those kinds of things. And it explained to me in a way I could understand that everything that I think is right or wrong, good or bad, true or false, is really just a belief. And when you can understand this, and then understand how you'll understand this through some of the science information, how your thinking affects your health. You either draw health and well-being to yourself, or you draw illness to yourself, and how you can grow new brain cells and change the neural pathways in your brain. This sounds really maybe scary for some people, but this is quite easy to understand, and it's done in a way that you'll understand it conceptually. And when you understand these things, you will understand that, you get in there, you dissolve these patterns of behavior through this assistance with the divine, and it happens slowly, it happens imperceptibly. But one day you'll wake up, and I'll tell you, your whole experience of life changes. What we see is merely a reflection of our beliefs. You change your beliefs, and you change what you see. And I'll give you an example. Okay, go ahead.
I guess we're on the same page, aren't we? I was asking for an example. As you were saying, I'll give you an example.
Yeah. So let me give you an example of that. So during this pandemic here, two women that I know, friends of mine, they were walking down the street. We live on this historic street, and there's no one else around. And they were approaching this building that you walk up these large steps to go, and the entry and exit is out of the second story. It's a historic building. And as they're approaching the base of that steps, this elderly woman came out, and she was, gesticulating wildly, and she was yelling, and she glared down at them and pointed with her hand. And she said, "Oh, you can stare all you want. I don't care." The first woman, she goes, in her mind, she goes, "Oh, this woman's dangerous. I need to phone the police." She pulls out her phone. She dials 911. The second woman, in her mind, she goes, "Oh my God, I wonder if this woman needs help. I wonder if she's okay." And she reached out to this woman and said, "Look, are you okay? Do you need some help?" And as soon as that woman heard that, she calmed right down, and she told her story. And the only difference in that situation, which was the exact same for each of them, was what they believed, was their patterns of thinking and feeling.
Wow. Neil, that's powerful. I'm reading a book. I'm almost finished. It's called Atomic Habits. And I'm wondering how much of a role do our habits play in our thinking? Is it just something that we really think about everything that we do, or is it just something that's just a natural a habit?
So, there's levels of consciousness. So there's your conscious mind, where you ponder something and you make a decision. Somebody says something, you think about it, and you're measured in your response because you've thought about it. So that's a conscious action. Mm-hmm. The stuff that you've programmed in your subconscious and unconscious mind tends to be a synaptic response. It happens immediately. It jumps in and responds almost for you. Mm-hmm. And so this is going to be a little bit of a bridge for everybody. So you personally create every event and every experience that comes into your life through your thinking and your feeling. And you're going to say, well, how does that happen? Well, you think with electrical impulses in the brain, mm-hmm. and you feel with magnetic impulses in your nervous system. The magnetic impulses center and bond the electrical impulses of your thought into a blueprint of a future event or experience that comes into your life. And the more repeated thinking and feeling you have, whether it's a hateful, vengeful feeling or loving, kind feeling, you magnetize it to create a like experience that will show up in your life. But there is such a lag between that mechanism of what you're thinking and these blueprints that we create thousands every day that you are magnetizing, that you never link what comes into your life with any pattern of thinking and feeling. And this is if you follow these 7 steps, you are going to understand what was before the Big Bang, what the impetus for the Big Bang, what happened at the time of Big Bang, and how the material universe came into being. Mm-hmm. You are also going to understand how we use the tools of creation every moment in our lives, unknowingly, ignorantly, unwittingly, to create every event and every experience that comes into our life. And when you understand these mechanisms in this scientific way, that you will be able to consciously make a decision of whether you want to carry on living like you do or go through this process where you cleanse and rebuild and come into alignment with who we really are. And who we really are is our soul. Our soul is our truth. This body is merely a tool of creation to individualize the wholeness and unity of the divine into individuals. So we experience separation and we can experience all of these things which are contrary to unconditional love. The hate, the wars, the angers, the fear, the judgments, all of these things. And it's a tool for the evolutionary process of the soul over many lifetimes, varying genders, varying religions, sometimes wealthy, sometimes poor, sometimes highly religious, sometimes not religious at all, varying places of origin, varying colors of skin. And when you understand all of this, and there's so much to learn, but I can tell you, if you spend the time and the energy and you just spend some time every day and you learn how to do this meditation technique, you will eventually transform how you think and your life will change. It truly is magical.
Well, we're running out of time. Time is definitely flies when you're having fun, but there's another question I've got to ask. As we talk about cleansing our consciousness, what role would you say I want to mention a word, does it benefit? Does it have no benefits or what have you? And that word is hypnosis. Can the hypnosis help cleanse?
Well, I think I couldn't answer that specifically. I think that it's a tool that could be used to help, but really what you need to do is you need to have some consciousness learning. And you have to have this new knowledge to understand what you're really getting at and what you need to cleanse. Okay. And when you do this and you get this learning, then you go through and you get this help to do it. Like we, as individuals materialized in this human form, we reach out, we help each other, we do what we think. But these are all mental constructs of the human mind. And really what you need to do is connect back with our creator and let your creator help you through this process. Like, we are not here to please God. We are here to express God, and God is unconditional love. And when you learn how to do this, I'll tell you, all of the safety, the security, the peace, the love, the joy that you are seeking, it is all inside of you. You just need to know how to go within and unlock it. And that's what these 7 steps do, is they give you the knowledge and the process to go in and unlock this and become this embodiment of unconditional love.
How can we get our hands on this awesome tool of yours?
So the book is called A Higher Road, Cleanse Your Consciousness to Transcend the Ego and Ascend Spiritually, a 7-step process to inner peace, joy, love, abundance, and prosperity. It's by D. Neil Elliott. The website is dneilelliott.com. An easy way to get there is ahigherroad.com. The book is available wherever books are sold, in print or your favorite ebook form, Kindle, Apple, Nook, or Kobo. And yeah, you can get it from Amazon. If you're a member of Prime, they deliver quite quickly if you want a print book.
Is it in audiobook yet, or?
Not in audiobook yet. I will do one, but I don't have a planned date for that release yet.
Okay, great. I can't wait. Yeah, I'm an audio. Well, I don't. I listen to audiobooks, but I also realize you probably get more out of physically reading, because listening to an audiobook while you're driving, your attention is split between the road and the book. So I'm definitely going to get my hands on a copy of that. Well, how can anyone get in touch with you if we have any questions for you, or someone would like to chat with you, or do you have a website of your own, or outside of the book, or?
Oh, well, the D. Neil Elliott is my website. And so again, ahigherroad.com is an easy way to get there. All of my contact information is on there, and all of my social media links are on there as well. And I haven't been using social media a whole lot, but I will be, starting to post more things.
Sounds great. One final question. I've asked a lot of questions. One final question. In the future, would you be willing to come back and get a little more? Because, the little 30 minutes that we've done this, really just scratching the surface. I'd love to have you back on the podcast to go a little deeper, if you will consent to that.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to come back and give people more information and more things to chew on and think about.
Sounds
my goal is to help people, change their consciousness. And the more of us that do this and become this embodiment of unconditional love, we will eventually help transform this world into a new era of love and peace. Yeah. But it's going to take some time.
Yes. Well, thank you, my friend, for joining us again. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join this podcast. I want to thank all of you that listen to this podcast, The Underground Subway. Our goal is to help to change an awareness, as our guest Neil Elliott have said, D. Neil Elliott have said, that we have to cleanse our consciousness to create a better world. That's what we want. I do not want to be free and have my children and grandchildren still in bondage. I want us all to be free. And it begins with me changing my mind, my thoughts, cleansing my awareness, my self-conscious, whatever tool I need to do, whatever investment I need to make my life better. Thank you for joining the Underground Subway. I have one challenge for you before you go to bed tonight. I want to challenge you sometime before you close your eyes and crawl under the comforter or between the sheets, wherever you sleep, lay down, whatever your plans are. I want to challenge you. Find a mirror. Look yourself in the face, stare yourself right in the eyes, and ask yourself a question. Today, did I do something to make this world a better place? Did I do something to raise my self-awareness to make myself a better person? Or did I just waste another day? We don't have any more time to waste. It's time for us to get better. We'll see you next time right here on the Underground Subway.